entirely from me.
Okay. Is enough attention being given to domestic abuse within the LGBTQ plus relationships?
It's so interesting because whenever you speak about this, you have cis women say, we're also getting raped. We're also, you are not that special.
Yeah.
So LGBTIQ plus domestic violence, a lot of people cis people feel it's a bad thing, but they don't think it deserves special separate attention.
Yeah.
Or even with regards to sentencing, they don't feel that it deserves a sort of harsher sentence because cis women are just, especially black cis women in our country, are also just like, hey, we're out here living in fear as well. We're out here carrying guns and pepper spray because we're just not safe.
I mean, I've got three feelings about it. One, I've seen how the LGBTQ community sort of, you get gay guys will say, hey, Chumi, yo, he hits me as well. And it's almost like a badge. It's almost like the whole thing of, I'm now accepted into sort of, mainstreamness because I also suffer the same abuse as everyone else. Yeah. And on the other side, it's so weird because domestic abuse, the definition has always been that, a heterosexual male will hit a woman, but when you have two women, it's even worse because but guys, you work it out. Both girls,
and also because it's like you're equal in terms of physical strength.
Exactly.
So some people also say it's difficult for the law to intervene because with a man and a woman, the man is clearly the dominant person who's more aggressive. So when it's two women, it's like guys, it's a fair
I feel like
match.
if we're looking at it that way, then we are gendering human behavior.
Yeah.
Humans are abusive. Humans are toxic. It's not a male thing. It's not a female thing. Which is why I think even in heterosexual relationships, when it's a woman who's abusing the man, it doesn't get that much attention because we've gendered behavior to say only these kind of people exhibit this behavior. So when it happens in our spaces, it's like, no, just be patient. They're going through a rough time.
But also in the queer community, abuse is not really something which is spoken about. And also the queer community, like most marginalized groups, they don't like calling themselves out. And for me personally, I know that I always tell myself that if a guy had to try to hit me, Lord knows, I'm the right person to put in the wrong place. Because I just could not imagine it happening,
But no one imagines it happening to anybody.
Yeah. And for me, it feels so far-fetched. And whenever I hear about queer people who their partners abusing them, especially with two guys, I'm always like, why are you staying? Then I really...
That's always so confusing because I find that, with abuse, it's such a weird thing because you find it in the spaces that you least expect it, right? Yeah. You think, but this person loves me, they must treat me properly, and then they're the ones who end up abusing you. But I think also because we've got this very weird understanding of what abuse means to each other, that we sort of go, but you know what, we've got bigger issues, hey? We've got much bigger issues, we're not getting the right jobs, and so the abuse element comes in sort of as the 7th or 8th item on the agenda because we've got big issues in the queer community already. Okay, he hits you, but just hold on, we'll get to you in 2 months' time.
Even the abuse goes beyond the physical because there's so much mental abuse.
I think the problem we're having here and what I'm hearing from you guys is that not enough attention is being brought to it.
Yeah.
More attention is brought to females hitting males, even though you said it's not the same. More attention has been brought to that than it is then within the queer community.
Because of the structures of
Also, I feel like it's because most of the time we ridicule ourselves within the queer community.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna walk up to your best friend or whatever, a girl best friend as a queer guy. Oh, so and so got violent with me last night or whatever, and I don't know what to do about it. So most of the time it's, oh yeah, then you're a man, Jimmy, come on, hit him back and clap. How do you get away with it or whatever? Ne? And also this whole fear of having to report domestic violence within our space is because you get so emasculated sometimes. People take away from who you are, or because so and so happened to you as a boy or as a man, and you couldn't do anything about it. So it's it's this disease, I think, mind my wording, but it's this disease that's killing us, guys, because it's happening within us as well, and no one's doing anything about it.
But also the queer community doesn't speak about abuse. You could go sleep over at your male friend's house, and while you guys are sleeping after another party, he starts touching you. Then when you say no, he'll be like, come on. And it's a thing where they'll push it so far, and sometimes you'll just be like, give into it and let them do whatever. And other times you'll like be stern with them. But your mate will never in the morning look at it as in, dude, you're being rapey, you low-key tried to rape me last night, or you forced yourself, and it's not something that's spoken about.
Well, because we also find that in that kind of behavior, we sort of don't know what the space is for. So I'll give you an example. People who do that, usually I find that domestic abuse will happen in a relationship, right? But it also happens with friends, as you say. I'm in the bed, I'm chilling, and then you start trying to find your way around me. And because they know in the morning, we'll always be the ones to be blamed. You are that guy. You're the gay one.
Yeah, you were
trying, and he said no to you, and now you're bitter because he didn't do so, and now you're claiming that he raped you.
Yeah.
Same thing with women, you know.
Yeah. Can I just say, I think also we have to be mindful of the fact that abuse presents itself in different ways, as Thabo was saying. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's just like pure manipulation. So we do this thing where we expect victims to perform a certain way in order for us to validate that experience. So if I say so and so is being abusive to me, what did he do? You know what I mean?
But the point is, half of the time do you know that this is happening to you? Are you aware? Are you aware that
most of the time you're not? But what I'm
happening?
saying is, by the time I come out and say, actually, this was happening to me, now I'm expected to perform and provide like hard evidence. Oh no, because I'm saying Leroy was abusive because he punched me. Even if he didn't punch me, if there was something about him that made me feel less about myself and I felt like this was uncomfortable, that is abuse. So I think also we have
that's the other end of it. What about the early? What about the early signs of it? What about those bits? Those are the things that we need to talk about. These are the things that we need to highlight. What is abuse? What is mental abuse? What is, it's not just the physical side. It's not just
because I was going to ask that we should define what abuse is. Because
right.
we have it also in those relationships, and it goes to the financial aspect of it, right? Because you are, dating an older man and you're a gay individual and he identifies whatever. No, but I use the age thing primarily because he has more resources than you do.
Yes.
And then he's able to manipulate your movements, your interactions, what you can and cannot do because he holds the financial, like with heterosexual relationships, you know?
But even with queer peers, I've seen situations where someone else is struggling, the other person is doing well. So they will emotionally and mentally abuse you, knowing that you are dependent on them looking out for you.
Not always. I have to interject there. I'm going to bring in a personal experience here. Right. I was in a situation where, if anything, I'm the breadwinner. I'm the one that's doing things. But the manipulation on the other side was, you're not, just because you're doing that, that's it. You're not doing anything else. And it's something that was constant, built up, to the point I didn't realise what was going on. I didn't realise to what extent it got to until shit hit the fan. It was the small little things that kept on mounting until it was something major. And it was only when the major thing happened did I realise, is that what that started? So it's not always because you are deemed as being in a lower position, or because, like you said, when you have two females. Someone said something about sizes, about weight
structure.
Well, then you also have, if you have a relationship where one is a masculine female and one's a feminine female, you may have, it's going to be, again, you're going to the one who's more masculine is going to be a bit more. Did you understand?
Yeah.
So it kind
I
of.
think also another thing that makes domestic violence so difficult to deal with is being black.
Yeah.
I get it. It's dangerous being a black woman. It's an extreme sport, dating black men, because in the African community, especially when you're married, the woman is always taught resilience and endurance. Almost every culture, almost every South African culture of the 11 cultures that we have in languages, almost every single one of them promotes that a woman should stay. It's your duty to stay. And there's even sayings. There's so many sayings in every language about the wife, the woman being the one who holds the knife, and all of that. All of these things promote and encourage domestic violence, and there's even sayings that sort of like imply that the true test of a woman
is how much she can
is how much domestic violence she can endure.
But yes.
So and also I see it within the transgender community because trans women want to be want validation and to be accepted and acknowledged as women, and if cis women are sitting in abusive relationships and that is the testament to their womanhood, then trans women end up doing it too.
That's sad, because the fact that you say like they almost aspire to that, because the moment, again, I for me, I felt like as soon as it went physical, that was it for me. Yeah. And like I said, I didn't realise there were things that were building up to it. The comments, the alienating me from my friends, those kind of things. I didn't really notice them for what they were until the shit hit the fan. But at that point, I called them out. Everybody knows what happens. But I didn't go to the police for completely different reasons than, not because I didn't want them to be held accountable for it, but I didn't want them in, as funny as it says, the culture back at home is very much anything to do with any kind of knife crime. I didn't want to be a statistic. I did not want to be a statistic. I did not want social services in my house. I didn't want the police coming in my house. I didn't want to have to deal with any of that. And for me, I feel like it would have been nice to have a space somewhere that you can actually go to, speak to somebody, find out what your options are before having to go down that route. Because why don't people report it? Why don't people?
Also, that comes to a point of privilege, because you have the privilege to say, well, I know if I go and report them, social services will get involved, the police will get involved. Whereas this side, that is not even a guarantee.
You know what's even sad, because I know that there's also sort of queer community politics that I don't want to be part of as well, because I know that you unfortunately, because of some privileges that you have, get branded like the elite gay, the smart gay, the money gay, the educated gay. You shouldn't be going through these things, right? And then when you do go through them, it's like, oh, but now everyone's gonna know the story because I'm out there and I'm now the guy whose boyfriend hits him. And even in the community, when we find out that Thapelo's boyfriend hits him, we go, I've been telling him about the Nigerian guys, I've been telling him about these people and that people. And I found that in my personal sort of corner of the world, mine has always been sort of this weird financial thing. It was especially in my younger years when I was studying and I was dating someone at the time who had significantly more money than I did, and I felt so abused because I knew that my movements were dictated to by just how much money there was. So, and it started off small, the gift of the credit card, to say, here, go out with your friends and keep the credit card. So now I know if I want to go anywhere, I can charge for it, and now that you get accustomed to that, they go, pull it back. And then I also don't know how to put it into context, because I don't know what kind of abuse this is. Is this abuse? I mean, I'm spending his money, so it can't be abuse, right? But it is controlling me. It's making me feel less than, but it's still his money, right? I don't have the money to begin with. So
I think also another thing that we do is to romanticize strange behavior. Like we have this thing in the lesbian community where we're like, oh no, we meet today and we're married in 3 days. And that's, for me, that's how I found myself in a situation where
3 days.
Yeah. But that's how I found myself with like when I say lesbian speed, solid. So that's how I found myself in a situation where I didn't realize how a lot of the things that were happening around me wasn't normal, because already the speed that we were moving at wasn't normal. So when things were happening, I was like, yeah, it comes with the speed at which we were going. So it comes with this rate. So when someone, the person that I was with at the time, hacked into my phone.
Hacked into your phone?
Yes. Like, you know how you give me your password and whatever? I had not given them my password, but while I was sleeping, because we were like now sharing a space, we were together in less than a month, but already they were at my house a lot and whatever. So they used my fingerprint when I was sleeping. They used my fingerprint to log into my phone. You know what I mean? And it's not like things like that where I'm just like, of course she's gonna have access to my phone or whatever. But then it's like, it starts with those things. You didn't ask for my consent to have access to my phone. You know what I mean? So small things like that where you end up getting like caught up in very strange behavior because well, yeah, this comes with the territory of the way that our
and there is no established norm, so this is the norm that should
this
be.
is our normal.
But one thing I've always, I was reading an article about, it was like a psychology paper, and one thing I sort of identified for myself is that growing up queer, I suffered from a lot of displacement issues.
Yeah.
Because for me, I didn't get to become a teenager the same way my cis peers got to be straight.
Yeah.
My journey was that I either had to assume heterosexuality or I had to suppress and not venture into sex at all.
Yeah.
Then when you break from that space where I was comfortable enough to start experimenting and getting to know my sexuality, everything seems so much faster because also I'm older now.
Yeah.
So
You
everything's
catch
supposed to be quicker and everything's all compact in one thing. And the idea of also that because I'm queer, this is how it's supposed to be.
So a challenge that I had also with regards to domestic violence, right? And this came to mind when you said we romanticize weird shit. What is the fact that this guy was such an incredible human being? Everybody loved him.
Yeah.
So that also makes it a challenge when you now want to be the only person
in the
that
world
has a bad thing to say about this one person because he's funny, he's smart, he's got a master's degree. There's no way this person can be this thing that you are. So it's also that whole the other reason why domestic violence thrives and why abusers get away with it is because the victim themselves finds themselves in such a position where no one's going to believe you because we've all chilled with Thabo and Thabo wouldn't hurt a fly, and now you want to be the only one who comes and says no, actually Thabo strangles me every night. Abusers aren't all monsters. They're not walking around with knives. They don't have blood dripping down the corners of their mouths. They are people wearing Louis Vuitton bags and Christian Louboutin shoes, and we shop with them, we smile with them. They serve us at the bank. They drive our Ubers. Pleasant people to be around.
It's like rapists. All of them. We're all the same.
Yes.
Even one thing that I find in the queer community which we ignore is molestation. How so many young boys get molested, and then when you get to speak out, you get shamed for it. Like I remember the first time when I told my grand what was happening with the neighbor, my grand said it was my fault, I must have liked it. And then the family moved me away from the place, and the whole time I shamed myself the whole time thinking I must have done something wrong, sort of realizing an adult took years. So I realized that the adult took out, and it also does something we never brought up. And when I brought it up eventually when I was older, it was one of those things of like, that's awkward now. And because I confronted my grand, I was like, why did you blame me for it? Because I was a kid, I was between the ages of 5 and 7. This nigga was 19. And she was just, no one wants to, even today, if I try to bring it up, like, yo, man, remember when we spoke about this and we never addressed this? Just like, yo, go for therapy, go see a psychologist.
So I was trying to say, I was actually going to talk about a similar experience that happened. I was in school, whatever, and I was like confiding in a group of friends of mine, right? And I'm telling you guys, this and this and this and this and this and this and this how it started. It was very like emotional, like he made me feel trashy emotionally, you know. And then he body shamed me, and then it moved to us changing for physical education PE school. It moved to us changing to like being in locker room stuck with him, you know, because everybody else in class knows what's about to go down, whatever. And you confide in your friends, and it's actually crazy how your friends like, yeah, but it happens to all of us, Chomi. You know, like be strong, take it, move on, whatever.
Excuse me? How are your friends defending an abuser? Hey, you need new friends.
Every person who's in your life has the power to change you. And if your friends are not your safe space and are not the kind of people that you can go to, especially at a time when you are most vulnerable, those people are not your friends.
Last question. Those of you that have been in situations and had things happen, would you guys call yourselves victim? Because I keep hearing this word coming up, and I'm sitting here and it's making me sit here and I just want to go,
I don't know when a victim decides, who decides that I'm no longer a victim and now
but it's just the whole connotation of the whole victim thing. It's like I'm weak and vulnerable and
for
this.
Me,
no, because in my situation, the day that the stuff happened, it was one of those days where, oh, you threw a punch. I'm going to throw a punch too. Oh, we're going to go at this because you are not having anything over me. And we went toe to toe. I just came out the worst. I came out the worst.
But
right?
But I think
everybody else.
Right. Now, but it's a thing where one of the things when the police tried to get involved and other things, it was just like, oh, you know, you're a victim and don't worry and don't do that.
All right, I think we need to stop sensationalizing abuse. When something terrible happens to you, you are a victim.
But things that for some people, that's comfort. Like when someone comes to you and says, "Are you okay?" That's comfort. But for me, I know that I'm no one's victim. And at the end of the day, my experiences kind of like help me become a survivor in the sense of that whenever I'm going through something bad, I can always refer back to that I've been through worse.
But by the definition of the term, you are a victim. Something terrible happened to you.
So if we agree that you're a victim, right, and all the good and bad connotations about it, I think for me that what irks me about the question is enough attention being drawn to it, and I'm going back to the whole education thing, right? Like what is the attention that we need? What is the attention that we'll call it heterosexual domestic abuse is getting? Because I'm finding that we will not get to that point as a queer community just yet, because we are so afraid of even being attached to this concept. Everything for us seems to have to be an other. We need to teach you queer history. We need to let you know about
queer
how
abuse.
And I don't think enough will be done for it, because it seems like it's just a small. You're that big first as a community, and even then, like in that community, it's very complex. Even if you were straight, because now there's men and men fighting, and there's women and women fighting. Now there's a trans woman there and a trans man, and all of that is so complex that I don't think they even understand what domestic violence is beyond just their definition of dude hits lady or lady hits an exception. The only exception is where a woman hits a man. And I think there's so far to go to even try to get close to it, because abuse in the heterosexual community, especially towards cisgender women, it's been supported. There's places to go, not enough, but there's places to go. There are processes and procedures, and the rest of the communities don't have that.
Abuse should just be abuse. It should not be a gender.
Absolutely.
Abuse is abuse, what it is. It doesn't matter if it's been done by a man to a woman, or a woman to a woman, or a man to a man. Abuse is abuse. It's a violation of human rights, and it's something that should be standard. Like, my sexuality should never even be a topic when I'm being abused by someone.
But in society as a whole, we don't all have a human rights approach. Hence, there are hierarchies and the issue of privilege. So not everyone's going to be like, oh, abuse is just abuse. Of course, when you go to the police station, it's not just I got abused. Now it's like, oh, you got abused by your girlfriend. How does that happen? Now you have to deal with someone who also has their own prejudices.
In this country, I think more so than any other country, because we have a constitution that gives us the right to be ourselves, and then the enforcement comes from real life people who have their own prejudices, and that's where it starts off, because you can't monitor how a police officer one-on-one deals with you, because they have a job to do. You've got a product, an issue that they need to work with, but they can still make you feel terrible for bringing it to their table. So there's a point about the fact that it's so gradual, right? That by the time you figure out that you're being abused, you don't get it, and then the secondary abuse then happens when you get to the police stations and things, right? And people, even the system, though it's always made to favor the straight people, because it's like, yes, okay, we'll have these victim centers, for instance, like rape survivors. We put you in this room and we'll make sure that you get through it okay. When a guy comes through, they're like, we're back on this one. What do we do? Do we apply the same rules? But now we don't know what to do with it, because now it's guy on guy. What is the definition of rape? We don't even know.
And we also have to hold ourselves accountable in how we treat victims or people who speak up, or survivors, whatever the correct term is. When people speak up about being abused, we need to interrogate by ourselves how we treat those people. Because the most difficult thing, I knew when I was in that relationship that I was getting abused, but the most difficult part of it was me having the vocab and the guts to say, yo, Ayanda Maposa is abusing me. You know what I mean? Because of how that was going to be received. One, because they're charismatic, like you said, and also, why have you been quiet for so long? And also, he didn't hit you, so what do you mean he abused you? You know what I mean?
Just call them out now.
Oh, yes.
Ayana Maposa, your name has been put on the table.
I will not carry the shame of your actions, and I will not hide your identity. Obi Mavuso is an abuser. Ayana Maposa is an abuser. And if we're going to call people out on social media, then we need to see that trickling down into it offline, basically, because Twitter is not the only place where abuse takes place. This is issues that we face in society, and these people are part of the greater society.
With regards to the question again, is enough being done to address the whole issue of domestic violence in the LGBTQ community? Thabo, you said, abuse should be abuse, but it's not. And we know that there are hierarchies to these things, and enough is not being done. Enough is not being done to address cis women being abused.
Yeah.
So in terms of the hierarchy, we have
the
to
most
wait.
important
We have
ones.
to
We
have to wait for the
Who
cis women
said
to get.
we shouldn't have to wait.
We shouldn't.
Speak up
But in the
now.
way the
Speak
system
up. We
works.
shouldn't have
We
to.
shouldn't have to, but we're gonna. That's the thing.
We
We
gotta
can be
wait.
idealistic and
But you
say,
cannot
we
entertain the
gotta wait.
status quo and say this is how. That's why things exist. That's why, like, imagine if black folk the whole time during slavery were like, well, this is slavery.
No,
we gotta wait. We gotta wait till
Getting wrong.
That's
She's
what
not
I'm
saying.
saying. She's not saying
What I'm
we
saying
have
is-
to.
really
what I'm
need-
saying is, yes, it has to be like that, but it's not like that. And
It
us
shouldn't.
saying it should be like that isn't going to make it like that.
Yes.
And us getting angry about it is not enough.
But
Because
us
it's
talking
not
about
going
it,
to
us
change
talking about it
It's not
and
going to
spreading the
change
word
And
makes a
this is
difference.
the reality. We even know I've had this conversation with so many of my cis friends, and we all came to the agreement that if we get raped or if we experience this, we're not going to report it. I can say now I'm not going to.
But the
report
thing
it
about it is
because
that-
because I'm a journalist and I cover
But
stories
we-
and I
but
go
we
to
have
these
to-
sessions
we have to
and
know.
I know what happens and I will not put myself through that.
It's like saying you
And
don't
yes,
have vote
and
because the country's so
No,
crowded.
that's the point. So the point. No, listen. The point here. The point here. The
Your
point
voice
here.
matters.
No,
But
the
the-
point here.
how am I
Yeah.
making
And so what you're missing. What you're
No,
missing.
no, no, no.
What you're missing,
That's
Thabo,
so
what you're missing is that we're saying that the way the system works, I don't agree with it. I don't care for it to be that way. In fact, I agree with you to say that's not how it should be. I should be speaking up. And this conversation, Nims says, is the beginning. But unfortunately, the way the situation is structured, if we let it go the way it's going, if we don't intervene, we'll have to wait a long damn time.
But this is
So what do we do?
This is why I'm saying. This is why I'm saying that your story being spoken to somebody else helps somebody else to speak. Helps somebody else to speak. So these matters start coming up, and they can't ignore
But
it.
you know what the
They
thing
can't
is?
ignore it.
We can speak. We all know someone who's been abused. We all know someone who's been abused. But the power is in the law and the justice system, which is where we get failed. So there's really nothing.
Also, the power is in the people as well. Us vocalizing, us standing together. That's structures. Here's the thing: governments put laws and structures in place. We the people, if we're not uncomfortable with those structures, we tear them down. Imagine if we had said the same stuff about apartheid, like, well, apartheid is this way, it's the law, there's nothing you can do about
But you
it.
also
We can as a
Apartheid
people.
only ended because it was no longer beneficial to the oppressors. It's
Wait,
not because we.
No.
Okay.
No.
I was about
You
to
are
say, how-
really confusing issues here, because the issue here is that we're not fighting about the fact that apartheid was right, or we're not saying that. We're saying that the system as it sits right now, okay, there is a hierarchy of we don't want it like that, because I'm important. I want to when things go wrong, I want to be able to get 100% the same as the next person, right? But here the issue is that we're struggling to grapple with the basic understanding that a woman can hit a man in a relationship and a man can hit a woman in a relationship. And that's problematic. That when we're trying to nuance it to go, do you know that that's not the only relationship that exists? We're really adding onto a system that already goes, oh, Nkosiam, now there's number 3 and number 4 and number 5. And I'm saying that what Nims is saying, I think, is a solution to say, okay, conversate. Clearly, they don't want to do it fast enough for us on the corner. And the social contract that I agree, we sign with the government, we pay you taxes, do something. They're not doing it. I'm not going to wait for them to wake up. So what are we doing about it in between? And the same thing happened with apartheid. Apartheid became, we just were like, actually, we don't like this. It's unbeneficial to us. So what do we do now in our small silos? And that's why when you think about apartheid, you think about there were women movements, there were music groups, there were so many different sectors coming together and making it work that if we replicate that sort of system where doctors together all bundle up and protect the queer community and medical profession, the lawyers, the sweepers, whoever, they come together and make it work, then there will be something.
There's a gatekeeping issue.
Very much.
We don't hold the power. Unfortunately, we don't influence decisions. We're already othered, so we're already treated like a small group of people who are just going to add on to more problems that we have to deal with the more important people. It is common knowledge, and stats back it up, that a lot of abuse occurs in heterosexual relationships, particularly where the man is abusive towards the woman. But the reason why it's so difficult for us to talk about it in the queer space is because we've gendered abuse. So we're saying in the absence of a man, there won't be any abuse from that. And we forget that certain characteristics are human and they don't come with a gender.
You know what worries me about this idea of what can we do, right? Because we've got these established norms. We've got this whole idea that we've got the laws in place and we found very much of law is that it's very static. It's not dynamic like what happens. But on the other side, with my legal background, what I've always felt was so hard was to sort of reconcile what's happening in the real world with the law around it, because there's actually an issue with call-out culture, with naming and shaming and saying who this person is, because chances are they'll sue you for defamation because you've published something which is a requirement and you've defamed them and you have no concrete proof, because usually abuse doesn't go, I will abuse you tonight when you get home, and there's paper trail, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I find that it's so hard for us to be able to even reconcile the law that it's actually more of a social issue than a legal one. And what we've done very, very well in this country in particular is to make sure that the law does not work.
Yes.
It always protects the other person. So I think the one way we can make it work is when it becomes a requirement of any sort that any person who steps on, from a racial point of view, even in the way how a discourse is set up, we don't even have the same amount of impact when it comes to queer politics, than we do with, say, racial politics. Like a penny sparrow can come in and say, you are a K-word. But if I call you a what and a what, they go, oh, but then that's not me. Don't care about that. And unfortunately, every kind of discrimination must be pulled out like that. And that's why I went back to the ideas of making it in silos. Because I know if I speak up in my television friends group and say, no, you don't speak to a makeup artist who's queer like that, just because you feel like she's not worth anything in your mind, I'm not going to work with you. Okay. I'm going to pull my money away from here. Yeah. When you go to the barber shop and the guy there, wasn't going to cut a queer person's hair, you go, okay, cool, I'll take my money with me. Whichever way we can in our little silos, I think is the only way to make it work, because the law ain't about to change.
Okay, so I think from what you're saying is that we all agree that the law does not favor victims.
Doesn't at all.
Because I think it's also insane that as someone who has been abused, now it's my job to prove that that person has raped me or whatever, when they should be proving that they didn't, especially given statistics of sexual abuse and domestic violence.
But the sad thing is that the law, the way it's structured, is that he who alleges must prove.
Yes,
and unfortunately, in a situation like that, even with the rape victim,
most of the times you can't prove it.
And that's the point.
As society, we have a responsibility to make victims feel safe, to come out about their abuse without making them feel as if they need to prove it or they need to provide any evidence. Because in most cases, we don't have evidence. And the law fails us in the sense that we focus more on saying, because you're the one who's making the claim, that it is your responsibility to prove that, disregarding the fact that abuse does happen, and if you are the one who is accused, then it's your job to say that you didn't and provide proof to back that up. I think a lot of the time we judge victims on whatever expectations they have when they do speak up. Like, I'm not speaking the reason why I decided not to speak up when I was getting abused is because I was like, no one's going to do anything anyways. You know what I mean? So already I'm just like, there's no reason for me to speak up, which means that person is going to do it to another person and another person and another person. So we should encourage people to speak up by actually implementing things where, like, when I do speak up, then I know that there will be repercussions for that person.
Yeah, automatic and real truth.
Yes.
I kind of, as much as that's the ideal way to go, I also feel that there's also another avenue and other things that we can hit, like abuse. That cuts into, abuses cuts into mental health, right? So when it cuts into mental health, there's also another factor you have to take in. So why aren't there places like that you can go and get therapy and get some sort of another avenue to sort things out differently? Do you know what I mean? Like, is prison necessarily the right place?
Yeah.
Did you understand? I'm not saying.
Wait, are we worried about the abuser?
No, we're not talking about that, because
send them to jail.
How many people go to prison and come out and do the same thing again when they come out?
Over and over again.
How many people come and do the same thing over and over again? Is that going to change anything? What is going to be done? What programs, even if they go to jail, what programs are in there for them to change those ways and kind of combat those things? Do you understand? Yeah. Because if not, they're always going to come back and do it to the next person.
So we're saying there shouldn't be consequences. Instead, we should
No,
that's not what she's saying. You see, you are adding your own meaning to her words. What I'm assuming she's trying to bring across that jail is not rehabilitation. We need to have better facilities for rehabilitation
to make sure this doesn't happen again, because jail's not the answer for that. that it doesn't. There's no guarantee that going to jail is going to change that person.
Yes.
He'll feel bad for 6 years while it comes out.
Right? Do
Doesn't
you understand? It's not good. There's no guarantee.
But what I'm saying is,
so what else
we
can
shouldn't
we
say,
do?
yes.
What else can we do?
Yeah. So we shouldn't say that it's wrong to expect that people should go to jail. They should go to jail. But while in jail, there should be systems there that are put in place to make sure that when this person comes out from this isolation, they don't go back and do that same thing.
That's when it gets to that point. What about when things are noticed before it gets to the stage of that? Where are those places?
Can I
before?
answer your question?
Okay.
Like I said, you need to think about the bigger picture here. Why are these things happening? Why do you talk to someone in that way? Why is this happening? Because if you send someone to prison, they're stuck in prison.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here worrying about an abuser.
I would never ever expect someone to go be a revolutionary and go call people out. Especially someone who's being abused. No would I demand someone who's being abused to speak up. I would rather I be the example for them that when I know of someone who's abusive, I take a stand against them. Like, you're abusive, I will no longer have you around my space. Like, I don't speak to my father because my father was abusive to my mother. Even my friends are like, yeah, but it's your father and it's between the two of them. He's an abuser. I do not associate with abusers. And it's a stance that I take as a member of society. If I take a strong stance, someone who's in a vulnerable position, they'll feel more comfortable to come to me.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying about consequences, though. That's what I was saying, that when we show victims and survivors that there are consequences, when you do speak up, something will happen. We show them by saying, if I know that someone is an abuser, I will not associate myself with that person. That will encourage me as an abuser to say, when I do speak up, I'm not the one who's going to get ostracized, because the reality is you're more of a bad person for getting abused than being the abuser. Because now you're templing with the peace. We like Nino, so why must we stop hanging around with him because he just abused you? You know what I mean? So now you're the bad person because it's like you're ruining circles.
You guys need to change your friends then, boy.
Yeah.
You need to change your friends. Because I'm telling you, my friends right now, my friends will not shit on my ex. Right? My friends are like, I saw your ex.
Like, we have to start with sharing. So I'm going to share with you. You see this? This is the result of what I went through. And the more I talk to women, young, everybody, it happens to everyone. The more I talk to people about it, is the more people will understand and maybe recognize that point in their friend or recognize that point in someone else and be able to say, do you know what, babes, maybe we should talk about this. Are you okay? Because that's what needs to happen.